Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep and Destroy. This is your host, Adam Luff. This is the Gerry Anderson podcast where I ask his fans what 5 of their favourites do they want to keep and what 5 do they hate the most and want to destroy. And for this week, I have Rebecca Andrews. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So first things first, how did you get involved in Gerry Anderson's work?
Yeah, I've been a fan of Anderson's works probably since the 90s when sort of shows like Thunderbird, Stingray, Captain Scarlet were shown sort of around the sort of early to mid 90s. Got into that thanks to my dad and discovering the Gerry Anderson podcast and gone back to sort of rediscover those classic shows that perhaps I didn't watch before.
There is one franchise that you contribute quite a lot to at the minute is James Bond. You have a podcast. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I co-host my podcast, Do You Expect Us to Talk? I've been doing that for the last 5 years, reviewing the Bond movies. So yeah, quite pleased and proud to do the podcast and glad to still be going after 5 years.
Well, I've got more Bond-related questions. The first one is, who is your favourite Bond actor and which is your favourite Bond film?
Oh, that's a tough question. Favourite Bond actor, I don't know. Probably Daniel Craig at the moment.
And Bond film?
Probably On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's a classic.
Yes, it's a pretty good film. My choices are Timothy Dalton and The Living Daylights.
Easy. Yeah, for sure. No, I can definitely go with that one. My ranking changes all the time. I'm a fickle person.
And the last question that's Bond related brings us back to Gerry Anderson as well. Have you seen a puppet Bond film called Agent Crush?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen it. I'm keen to, and obviously if it stars, the late great Roger Moore, then all the more reason. So
I was following it for such a long time because they made it back in 2007 or 8, but then it was in post-production hell for so long. It just got delayed and delayed. In fact, I was at the Berlinale Film Festival back in 2017 and I met the distributors and I just said to them, is this thing coming out yet? And they said, no idea. I can't remember if it was copyright problems or something, but something delayed it. And then the next thing I knew, it was suddenly on Amazon. I'd recommend it. Okay, and now it's time for Rebecca to start off with her keep list. So what do you have for us?
Okay, so number 1 on my list would be Thunderbirds episode Trapped in the Sky.
Starting off with something big and epic. Good choice.
Yeah, this is probably like my favourite Anderson show ever. Although for me it does kind of drag a little bit in the middle. Chop that bit out. It's a bit unnecessary.
It's only because it was originally filmed as a half-hour episode, but then Lou Grade told Gerry Anderson he wanted them to be an hour long because he was that impressed.
Yeah, so he needed to add something. But so like for a first episode, it's really tight with action scenes, and plot-wise and character development as well. It kind of sets up with the main characters, and it's a strong opening to the classic series. Captain Scarlet with the episode Attack on CLOUDBASE. It might have one of those sort of cop-out, it was all a dream endings, but I enjoy it. So.
How do you feel about the way Captain Magenta was the comic relief in that episode?
Oh, Magenta, he gets so much stick. Dear, oh dear. He's an interesting character. I found this 60s Scarlet annual, and obviously it gives you all the information and backstory, and you sort of read his story, and he's actually quite an intelligent man. He's got a sort of criminal background. Really? I mean, really? Stingray, Plant of Doom. So yeah, this is in my top 5 because of the battle between the Terrorfish, I think that's what it's called, and Stingray. And you've got the kind of the chase scene as featured in the opening credits of Stingray. Although the Terrorfish, you see it it pops up a few times in the series, but here it seems like a really credible threat, I think. But yeah, I just think just purely for those effects and the battle sequences as well. I think like Stingray personally, I love like the opening credits, probably my number 1. In like the Underverse, as it were.
It really sets the tone perfectly.
It really does. It's actually just those, I don't know, we kind of dubbed them danger drums or anxiety drums, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
The alert. It makes you sit up, take notice. It just makes me very excited. It's one of those ones that's iconic. But yeah, anyway, I would say probably for that reason, that's why Stingray's Plant of Doom is in my top 5. I've got new Captain Scarlet, Proteus. For me, it is fast-paced and action-packed. However, I think the villain is quite unusual. Like deadly robots are quite creepy. Largely, some of the effects do hold up, but for me, no, I do enjoy this episode.
One thing that I'm not a big fan of with new Captain Scarlet, and this episode is a perfect example of it, so it'd be interesting to see what your take on it is. In Proteus, The very end of the episode, when it's blowing up, Captain Scarlet just about escapes with his life. Now, my problem is, in New Captain Scarlet, he's supposed to be indestructible. There aren't that many episodes where he gets killed. Unlike original Captain Scarlet, he is killed so many times. And
pretty much every week.
exactly. I don't know whether it was standards and practice. For whatever reason, they never went with that concept.
Does seem very weird.
What you should have done was just have him killed in the opening episode with Captain Black and just go with the concept of he was brought back to life and that's it.
And that's it, yeah.
Because at least that way you don't have people like me bringing up the fact that he's supposed to be indestructible.
A massive plot hole. So last on my keep list is UFO identified.
Interesting, because the actual day of recording, September the 16th, is the 50th anniversary of this episode being transmitted.
How about that? I knew it was anniversary, but I didn't know it was today. Smoking, lots of drinking, things that you might not see very much these days, apart from like period pieces.
Well, there is a great moment though when Ed Bishop, as playing Ed Straker, he manages to blow a smoke ring.
That's so cool. A bit of a non-smoker myself, but I think that's just a moment of cool.
I mean, Gerry Jansen even said in the DVD commentary that he was expecting multiple takes, but apparently Ed Bishop got it right first time.
Yeah, he did it spot on, so as only he can. So I think that's a little bit legendary there. It was 70s sexism as well, unfortunately. But I think that the way that she sort of, casually bats him away, shows that, the show is very forward-thinking. I love the Shane Rimmer cameo. I think whenever Shane Rimmer's on screen, always a fantastic addition.
That voice is so iconic.
Definitely.
Well, it must be quite a while since you landed an SST.
There's a scene between Straker and a security guard where he's like, well, security's difficult. And he's like, don't tell me security's difficult. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it's kind of, you see a lot of these tight close-ups on his eyes and his face, kind of emphasising the claustrophobia of his role, basically how it's weighing heavy on his soul, unfortunately.
Have you seen Question of Priorities?
Yep.
That says it all, really.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
That is possibly my favourite episode of UFO, just because of not only the hard-hitting storyline, but Ed Bishop's acting as well.
Yeah, exactly. Heartbreaking, really heartbreaking. But I think that gets definitely an honorary mention.
Okay, now we're done with the keep list. Let's now begin the destroy list. So, what do you hate, Rebecca, and what would you like to destroy?
Oh dear. Dun dun dun. To kick off, I've got the Thunderbird 6 movie.
This is a first. You picked a film on Keep and Destroy. Everybody previously, including me, has only picked episodes. So why have you chosen Thunderbird 6?
One reason, laughing puppets. But yeah, it's one of those sort of scenes that's just become iconic, really.
I just love how pretty much everyone on the internet always says it's the laughing puppets that scare them or whatever. And I remember when I saw it in the late 80s, it never terrified me. If anything, I turned to my dad and said, why are they crying? Because obviously when you see them, it looks like they're crying. I don't know how old I was, but I was more distracted by that than the actual nightmare fuel.
I think it's because of the teeth. I think that's weirds people out a little bit.
I actually like the characterization of Brains in this movie, especially when Jeff is giving him a very flimsy brief for Thunderbird 6. And then Brains brainstorms, pardon the pun, he thinks of some new vehicles and Jeff just turns them all down, and then Brains just starts losing his temper.
Well, exactly, yeah, I don't blame him, really, because, so he gives him, like, the very minimal brief, so, like...
To have him constantly rejected and just start showing a bit of anger and resentment to his boss, I thought that was a nice little touch, really. And another character that gets written in a comedic way, Parker. I'm not a big fan of the way he was treated in the movie. How the characters are laughing at him because he doesn't realise that Tintin's flying the tiger moth and he's sort of jumping and panicking and things like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I'm not a big fan of that at all, unfortunately. I think it's a bit harsh. Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons again with Dangerous Rendezvous. Although it is reflective of real-world events at the time, and kind of expresses a wish for, obviously, based on during the Cold War. It's sort of part of a trilogy of really otherwise like gripping episodes, part of like the Lunaville trilogy, as it were. The ending of it is a bit anticlimactic. So yeah, for me, it just, got a really good couple of episodes, and this one, I mean, it still stands up, but it just ends on a bit of a dud, bit of a duff note. It's UFO again, this time with Ordeal.
So it was an ordeal to watch Ordeal.
Again, it's one of those, it was all a dream episodes. I mean, it looks very cool, shot quite interestingly, looks quite trippy, but think it is one of the worst It Was All a Dream episodes.
It's a gimmick from a bygone era. It seems to fit fine in a puppet show. When we get to UFO, which is very adult heavy, this doesn't feel right. I do like Ordeal, but I agree there's something wrong about it. They could have perhaps made this real, where, you know, you've had Paul Foster kidnapped, and whether or not you could have some episodes afterwards, you know, with him trying to recover from post-traumatic stress or go in sort of a new direction like that.
I think that would have been quite interesting to see.
One of the guest actors is David Healy, who who did some voices for Captain Scarlet and Shane Weston in Joe 90.
Legendary character.
He kind of looks like Shane Weston.
Oh, that's true. He does a little bit, doesn't he?
Oh God, Torchy.
Sorry. Torchy the Battery Boy? And the episode Torching the Man on the Moon. Oh dear, where do I start?
Don't.
Right, moving on.
Let's move on. No. Elaborate. We need to elaborate.
We do. A lot of it now seems very inappropriate. Obviously, the show is very much of its time, and it's a really excellent showcase for what could have been achieved in the children's puppet show at the time. Some aspects sadly haven't dated well, in my opinion. As obviously, when viewed through a modern lens, there are some safeguarding issues between Torchy and the Man in the Moon, about him sharing a bed with a strange old man.
Oh yeah, he's in bed with what's he called, Dumbledore or something. I forget the guy's name, but
it does pander down. It does pander.
That's one of my problems. I'm not a big fan of Roberta Lee. We've talked about how Gerry Anderson, you know, never talked down to kids, whereas I think Roberta Lee did. I always thought that she always would write as if the kids were morons. I'm not doing a Roberta Lee themed Keep and Destroy because, well...
No, that would everything go in the bin.
Although Paul Starr and the Solar-Nauts, they weren't too bad.
Is that the Ed Bishop one?
And how?
I've seen that one as well because that's online. And even though like, a lot of people say that he phones it in, I still think it's quite good.
I don't think he does. I don't agree.
No, I don't think he would phone it in. I think he still gives a good performance.
Definitely, yeah. Sadly, Paul Starr didn't get, wasn't commissioned for a series. Ultimately, Roberta Lee, she shouldn't have wrote everything herself. She needed a team of writers. She's an ideas person at best.
Terrorhawks, 2 for the price of 1. I probably got it wrong somewhere, but I don't know if it was like quite heavily edited for TV or it was banned or something for a time.
It was edited because I was part of the tape trading circuit back in the day.
Oh, right.
They'd only released the first 24 episodes on video and then they just stopped. So there was a period where 15 episodes weren't available at all. But because people had taped them off TV, you know, they traded episodes. I was able to get hold of the unreleased episodes. So I did watch 2 for the price of 1. And yes, it was heavily edited. They took out all the crowbar stuff.
Oh gosh, that scene is quite traumatic to watch, even for a show that is already very weird. But I do have a lot of love for the show, but just that one particular episode, 2 for the price of 1.
And now we've come to the end of Rebecca's Keep and Destroy list. Was it difficult making the choices?
It's like children, I guess, or like it's like asking, as you said, like who's your favourite Bond or that sort of thing. Ask me tomorrow and my answer might change. I might say, oh, actually, no, it's just one of those things. It's just how my brain works.
You could always come back if you have a change of episodes, you never know.
Thank you, Rebecca, for joining me on Keep and Destroy, and thank you, the audience, for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to donate to help the series continue, please go to Buy Me a Coffee or GoFundMe. The links are in the description. You can also find the link to Rebecca's podcast, Do Expect Us to Talk. Go check it out. This is Adam Luff, signing out.